Hello everyone, I am Brooke with Mrs. Cog Hill, and I was trying to figure out what I could do for a video, and Jason suggested, he said, why don't you just go hop on your tractor and just go tell people about why you like your tractor, what encouraged you to want to have a tractor, and just show all the things that you like about it. So I decided on this lovely evening with the sun setting behind me, what's actually in front of me, that I would come out here on my tractor and show you guys and girls just exactly why I love my tractor so much. So I think the first thing I'm going to show you is the way that it works and the gears that it has. Now, when I bought this tractor, I bought it used, and I bought it from a gentleman that had used it very little, and he just used it basically to cruise around his property. We had actually talked to a salesman. We had looked at and thought we had figured out exactly what we wanted, and that was until I started just searching. I didn't jump on the first thing that came in mind, and I'm so glad I didn't. I'll get back to that in just a minute, but I wanted to show y'all how easy it is to operate and own a tractor. So I've got the tractor cranked up, and I'm just going to show you the difference when I go from the turtle, which is low throttle, to high throttle just sitting here. Listen to the difference. So you can tell from the sound of that the difference in power that you have the ability to use. So when I'm bush hogging, I am normally in low gear, which is what I drove the tractor to get it to this position in. Low gear is just a steady, slow crawl, and it gets me where I need to go, because if I get on my tractor, I'm not going to be in a hurry. But there are times when I do want to shift it to M, which is medium or middle, and I'm going to show you guys the difference in the speeds. First I'm going to start out at low, and then I'm going to show you medium, and then I'm going to show you high. And this tractor is equipped with something that I didn't think I would ever use, and that is cruise control. But when you're out here and you're bush hogging, or you're doing work that is a continuous back and forth pattern, you want to go at a consistent speed. Y'all, I have found that I'm so happy this tractor had cruise control, because while it sounds crazy, it's not. It just gives your foot a rest and allows me to sit back and enjoy. Okay, so here we go, and I'm going to turn the camera around. So I am on middle, on low. So if I was bush hogging, I would have the throttle up a little bit higher than that. But as you can see, the speed is just kind of steady and not really fast. And most of the time when I'm bush hogging, the grass has gotten up to where it needs to be cut. I'm not just out here leisurely cutting, it needs to be cut. All right, so now I'm going to put it in medium and let you see the difference. I'm going to raise my throttle, turn the camera around, and put it in medium. Stop, put my foot on the brake. Change it to medium, and you're going to see the difference. So you can see why I don't have much need for a medium speed unless I'm just shuttling back and forth. Now, there have been times when I've been moving mulch from one place to another, and I will get my scoop of mulch and then need to go from point A to point B, and I may put it on the medium just to get there a little bit quicker. But for the most part, if I have an implement on, such as a bush hog or something like that, I'm not going to go super fast. Now, this is what you call, it's got an H here, but I don't know what that H means, because it needs to be T for turbo. I don't recall on one hand that I've ever used this. But I'm going to show y'all how fast this tractor can go. Are you ready? I got my seatbelt on. I hope y'all do too, because I got a straight shot in front of me and I'm gonna show you. So I'm in T for turbo, H for high. I'm gonna give it a little gas and y'all are gonna see something. So I hope that didn't feel too much like a ride at the fair. I don't ever need to go that fast, but I'm sure there are people that feel the need to go that fast on their tractor. But I'm just going to show y'all a few details of what my tractor has that I do enjoy. Now I mentioned the cruise control, and all that does is allows you to stay at a steady speed that you set. Now you could go at that speed that I was just going at and put it on cruise control. I don't know why you'd have a need to do that, but what I usually do is if I'm in low gear and I'm bush hogging and I'm going back and forth on this pasture, I feel that it comes in handy to me to be able to sit back and just enjoy nature. My tractor is a Kubota, and the first tractor that Jason and I ever bought was a Kubota. And it was about the size of a riding lawnmower, if you can imagine. A riding lawnmower and a bucket on the front. Well, we bought the tractor after we had owned Little Cog Hill Farm, about 2 years. And our driveway needed maintenance. Of course, we had a gravel driveway, and anybody that has a gravel driveway knows that over time it has to be, you have to put new rocks out and you have to spread the dirt because it gets bumpy and such. And Jason and I were doing that with basically a wheelbarrow and a rake, which we did it. But we knew that it would be in our best interest if we could invest in a little tractor. So we did that, and we bought it through Kubota. And one of our biggest decisions why is because they offered us 0% financing. And we thought, well, the price is not any different if we finance it or if we pay it outright. So what we did was we financed the tractor for 4 years, and we made equal payments. And if I'm not mistaken, it was around $200 and something a month. And for two people that were, working to make ends meet, that was a big decision for us to make, to come off with, that much money every month. But we knew it would be a long-term investment also that we would, in turn, get a lot of use out of and save our backs in the process. So our next decision was, do we really need a tractor with a bucket on the front of it? Because all we were really thinking we needed was a box blade on the back. And a box blade is simply a piece of equipment that hooks to the back of your tractor's 3-point hitch and goes up and down, and is a heavy piece of metal that when you let it down and drive, it will spread as you go. It's like a rake but heavy duty, and it makes things smooth. So we thought if we just had that box blade that we wouldn't need the bucket. But we went ahead and we bought the model with the bucket on the front of it. So here we are with a little riding lawnmower that's got a bucket on the front of it and a box blade on the back. And y'all, I'm gonna tell you, that thing was a life changer. It was a game changer. My little lawnmower with the bucket on the front saw more hours of use than my car did. And that's the honest truth, because we found that bucket on the front could not only move gravel around and do things to maintain the road, but it could lift heavy items. We could move dirt. We could do things that we never even imagined. Possibilities are endless. I mean, we moved a mini mobile chicken coop back when we had broiler chickens for a restaurant. We would take the bucket and we would put it up under the front end of the coop, and it was too heavy for me to pick up and move, so I put the bucket under the front of it and I drove backwards while Jason guided it in the backside of it, kind of steered it along. And oh my gracious, I mean, just things we never thought we would use it for, and it came in handy. So that was one of my biggest pluses about getting a tractor, was having that bucket on the front. the experience that I had with tractors was with an old John Deere that Jason's dad had loaned us when we were building our first house at Little Cog. He had previously been a member of a hunting club and had the tractor there for maintaining the roads and such at the hunting club. And he was no longer a member of the hunting club, so he brought the tractor to our house. And that was our first experience with the tractor, was having it there while we were building the house, and then he kind of showed me how to use it, in which I immediately fell in love with. Now, there were several times when I did things that I should not have been doing, but that was just a live and learn kind of situation. Jason would be at work, and there was one point in 2004 when the year that we built our house, Hurricane Ivan came through, and it came through central Alabama and made a mess. So we had trees all over our property, and us building a house, having a fireplace, what better thing to do than use those trees and cut it up for firewood? So I would find myself, while Jason was at work, I was in, let's see, I guess I was in my mid-20s at this time, mid to late 20s. No, Marycarl wasn't born, and I would find myself spending my days hooking logs up to the back of this old John Deere tractor, pulling them out of the woods where the tornado, well, not tornado, we think it may have been a tornado from the hurricane, but it did a lot of damage. There were trees down everywhere. I would put gas and bar oil in the chainsaw. I would saw limbs up, and I'd hook those big old heavy logs up to the back of that old John Deere and pull them out of the woods. And that way, on the weekend, when Jason was home, we could get the wood cut up for firewood, and we'd let it sit on the porch all summer. Winters in Alabama are mild, so it's not necessarily that we needed it to heat our house. It was just the fact that we had trees down and we had a fireplace, and that would be a good thing to do with that wood. So I used the tractor, getting a lot of wood out of the woods, a lot of times pulling things that were too heavy that would in turn make the tractor's front end come up in the air, try to pull stumps up that I shouldn't have, but that was just things that I shouldn't have been doing. But anyway, I learned from that I did have a love for the ability that tractors could do to make my ability to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. So, boy, if I had had a bucket back then, I don't know what would happen, because that old John Deere, I can't even tell you how much I put it through, and just a bucket would have been so much better. So we bought the first tractor, used the stew out of it at Little Cog, knew we had to have a bigger tractor when we bought this farm, simply because the bush hog that the little tractor would hold would only be a maximum width of 4 foot. Well, 4 foot bush hogging 20 acres was going to take a long time. So we knew we had to have a bigger tractor. Upon our visit to the dealership looking at new tractors, the salesman thought that the 2501 Kubota would be sufficient for what we needed. And what that meant was it was 25 horsepower. Well, the little tractor that we had before was 22 horsepower. Even though it was small in stature, it was a mighty machine, because 22 horsepower was just about as hefty as what the machine we were considering buying. So after sitting on it for a long time, and by sitting on it I mean thinking about it and not making a hasty decision as to what to do, I did a lot of looking on Craigslist and Marketplace, weeks on end. And one evening, it was a Friday, if I'm not mistaken, a Friday evening, Jason was not feeling well. I found a listing for a tractor on Craigslist. No, I'm sorry. I found a listing for a tractor on Facebook Marketplace. And it had everything that we thought we needed. And plus, it had heavier horsepower than what we thought was needed. Mind you, the salesman was thinking that we would be sufficient with a 25 horsepower. We knew we had to have the bucket on the front. The previous tractor had a hydrostatic transmission, so that was something that I wanted, and I'll get into that in a minute. But this tractor was a lot bigger. It was what I thought was the same size chassis or body, but a bigger horsepower. So I called the gentleman because Jason thought it was just too good to be true. It had less than 100 hours on it. It had been garage kept, and the price was very good. According to the pictures, it looked spotless. So I called the gentleman and I told him that I wanted to look at it, and he told me all the ins and outs, ups and downs of it. And I said, okay, look, I said, I want to come look at it in the morning. So Jason, not feeling well, I hooked the trailer up by myself. We had just bought a bigger trailer in order to move things from the old farm to the new farm. I hooked up the trailer and I took it over to Alexander City, Alabama, which was a little bit of a drive from where we were at the current time. I get there, and I told y'all that this tractor was on the same chassis of the one that we had looked at previously at the dealership that was a 25 horsepower. I got there and the tractor was sitting out in the yard, and my mouth just went wide open. Marycarl was with me. She looked at me and she said, Mama, there's no way that tractor's going to fit on that trailer. I said, oh my gosh, it's a monster. Well, it kind of excited me, but I was also kind of scared because here I was, a woman by myself with my, well, she was 11 at the time, 11-year-old daughter, pulling a trailer, buying a tractor from a gentleman I don't know. I said, sir, I thought that this was the same body as that 2501. Oh, no ma'am. This one's a good bit bigger than that. I'd had in my head from looking at the literature from Kubota that they were the same size. This tractor, this one is it's a 4701. What that 47 means is it's got 47 horsepower. That last one I was looking at had 25 horsepower. I should have known in my mind that if you go from 25 horsepower to 47 horsepower, you're gonna have to have a bigger frame, but I didn't. So my next thoughts were, this thing looks brand spanking new. He showed me where he had taken the exhaust and came out of the side of the tractor, because this was an older gentleman, and he said when he drove it, that exhaust came back in his face. And he didn't like that, so he had the exhaust. And if y'all have watched our videos for long enough, you know, he had this pipe coming out the side of it. So the exhaust pointed away from him. Well, I said, that's fine, that doesn't bother me. You know, it might even be better for me. Come find out it wasn't. But I said to him, I said, do you think we can get this tractor loaded up? Well, yes, ma'am, we'll see. I didn't feel comfortable about driving what was his tractor at the time up on my trailer. So what we had to do, because it was so big, we couldn't drive it on the ramps that came with the trailer. We had to get some automotive ramps and put them up under my ramps so they didn't sink too far. It wasn't that the trailer couldn't hold the weight, it was the ramps couldn't hold the weight. So we loaded it up, Marycarl and I, on our way back home with a big tractor. A bigger tractor than I thought we would ever need. One thing that I was told in the beginning is always buy the biggest tractor you can afford. So this tractor was 47 horsepower, and we may not ever need it, but we might. I'm so glad we bought the bigger tractor, or I bought the bigger tractor. I'm so glad that I went ahead and waited and did not go with my gut feeling to go ahead and purchase one because we needed one right then. I'm glad we waited and we gave it some thought, because otherwise I probably would be saying I need a bigger tractor. Whereas I'm not saying that with this one. Now, it was used. Somebody had owned it previously, but there wasn't a scratch on this thing. Now, I've got some scratches on it. I've got some, because I use it. This gentleman, he didn't use it. And that's one reason he decided to sell it, is because he did not use it. So, if you're in the market for a tractor, make sure, number one, you get everything that you need. Because it's not a good investment if you buy it and then turn around and have to make another purchase. What kind of investment? I mean, that's no good. So, if it takes saving a little bit longer, do that, because get everything that you need. Another thing was the salesman tried to talk me out of a hydrostatic transmission. Well, the hydrostat transmission is the only thing I knew. That was the only besides Jason Steady's old John Deere, which had gears. But what the hydrostat transmission does is it allows you to use your foot to go backwards and forwards without having to change gears. And I'll show y'all that in just a second. So, I mean, all in all, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that we bought the big tractor. I'm thankful that we have a bucket. I'm thankful to have the ability to step out on my own and make decisions that I know will benefit us in the long run versus making a hasty decision that could benefit us right now. So, the biggest thing is get over your fear before you try to start doing things, and I'm talking about on the tractor. When I first got on it, I didn't feel comfortable, but it took me some time before I was confident enough to feel like I was comfortable to do anything I wanted to do. So get yourself accustomed to being comfortable on it, because if you're not comfortable and you're scared, then that's when something bad could happen. So I'll show y'all a little bit about how this thing works and how easy it is, and how if you're thinking about, you know, getting something to make life on your property a little bit simpler, a tractor may be your best bet. I don't know. But here's a few things that will help you in your decision. So I'm going to crank it up. Very easy, like I said before. You're just going to you're simply turning the key over just like a car. You have a lever here, and this is just a joystick. It goes up to raise the bucket up. It goes down to raise the bucket down. And I'm in high gear, so it's going really fast. It goes down to the right to dump your load. Let me show you up a little bit higher. To the right, you dump it down. To the left, you lift your bucket back up. So easy. Up, down, left, right. Now, if you don't think that's fun, I don't know. Okay, so here's a little bit about the hydrostat transmission. And it simply means that you have a forward foot pedal. Without shifting gears, I go backwards. That's something that I was very used to, and I couldn't see myself venturing away from that. So that was another important feature. This thing has headlights on it, which there have been a few times that I've used the headlights. Not going down the road or anything like that, but taking garbage to the pickup at the end of our road. I can put trash cans in the bucket, and it makes it so much easier than me picking trash cans up and putting them in the back of the truck. Another thing is the attachments back here. You can see that we have an attachment on there right now, and the attachment that we last used was a auger. This is your 3-point hitch system, and it's very simple. It just has basically a sleeve that goes over that allows the mechanism to turn at a rapid rate of speed that allows work to be done. And that's how the bush hog turns too. I keep saying bush hog. Many of you may know it as a brush cutter, but that's what makes the blades turn really fast so your grass can get cut. This is just a little sampling of, you can see where I have cut over here versus where I cut a little bit later, and then this over here that hasn't been cut. But we're about to the end of our growing season now. I'm thinking that I've already reached out to a couple of farmers in our area about coming in and baling hay. Hay equipment is very expensive. It's not something that would be cost effective for us to go out and buy and bale our own hay because we would never see the return. But there are a couple of farmers in the area that cut for some other people, and I am planning to reach out to them and hopefully get something going for next year before grass cutting season comes in. I have put a lot of hours on our tractor. I told you that before when the tractor was for sale, it had less than 100 hours on it. And that literally means the amount of hours that you've used the tractor. So let's take a look and let's see what I've got on it now. Can you see that? I got my blinkers on, I don't know where I'm turning. 412 hours. That's a lot of hours. And most of it was out here cutting grass. But I enjoy it. I wouldn't get somebody to cut the hay to take the enjoyment out of me using the tractor. The wear and tear that it takes on it for me to cut the grass and then not get any kind of return on it. I'm not able to feed my animals because the grass is laying here. If somebody else could do that, that would take away a lot of cost for our animals, because usually they do it on halves, meaning give you half the hay and then they take half of it, and then takes away the fuel cost, of course. But hopefully I'll know something more on that in the near future. But I just wanted to kind of give you a general idea of what I like about my tractor, and there really isn't anything that I would do different. I can't say that there's any changes that I would do different. I mean, I'm not telling everybody to go out and buy a 47 horsepower tractor, because that totally depends on what you plan on using it for. The little lawnmower style tractor that we had at the old farm was perfectly sufficient for what we used it for. But we knew when we moved here it wasn't going to be perfect. So just do your research. Do your research and know what you are personally going to do with it. I knew that I had big plans here, and I knew that having more horsepower than what was needed would be a good thing. But you don't always have to do that. It just totally depends on what you're going to be doing. I hope I helped some of you out there that are thinking about buying a tractor or thinking, can I use a tractor? Go out there and see if there's any 0% offers out there. They're letting you borrow their money, so why not take advantage of that? If you can use that 0% financing, hop on board, because I mean that was the only benefit that I saw versus buying a new one versus a used one. But in our situation, it would have been totally crazy for us to buy a new one because of the opportunity we had with this one. So yeah, do your homework, see what you need. What's going to work for you may not be what's going to work for me, of course, but I hope that helped you in some of your questions you may have about your tractor. All right, I'm going in for the night. The sun has just about set, and if you can get a glimpse of that beautiful, this is something that we did not get to see very much at our old farm. It was not so wide open. Whereas this farm here, as you can see, it's just wide open. I mean, it's just beautiful pastures and bees. There's our pretty bees over there off in the distance. But I'm gonna drive it on back, and I just thought of something. there is one thing that I am going to have before next year, and that is a canopy. That's what I'm gonna, that's the one thing that I'm gonna change, is put a canopy on this big orange machine. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode and follow me along my journey.